They watched your story. Actually, they watched all three of them. But the message you sent yesterday? Still sitting there, no answer. And now you're doing that thing you promised yourself you wouldn't do. You're checking when they were last active, looking at the viewers again, wondering if your message sounded too emotional, too eager, or somehow not worth answering. But here's the part that should concern you. They may not be confused about you at all. They may know exactly what they're doing, because watching your story lets them stay connected to you without having to explain themselves, answer a difficult question, or give you anything real. They get to look through the window without ever knocking on the door. And somehow, you're the one left wondering whether you did something wrong. Let's talk about why this happens, because it isn't always as simple as, they're busy, and it isn't always proof that they secretly want you back either. Sometimes it's just habit. You open Instagram, tap the first story, and 20 stories later you barely remember whose face you saw. Your story may have simply appeared while they were scrolling. That's the boring explanation, and honestly, sometimes the boring explanation is the right one. But then there are the people who always seem to watch. They're there 5 minutes after you post. They watch the selfie, the song, the dinner, the slightly suspicious quote you posted even though you told yourself it wasn't aimed at anyone. They see all of it. Yet the second you try to have an actual conversation, they disappear. That's when it stops feeling accidental. Think about the difference between watching and replying. Watching requires almost nothing. One tap, maybe 2 seconds of attention, and they've checked in on your life. They can see whether you're happy, whether you're going out, whether you're with someone new, or whether you still seem affected by what happened. Replying is different. A reply could lead to a conversation, and a conversation might require honesty. Maybe you'll ask why they went cold. Maybe you'll want to know what the two of you are doing. Maybe they'll have to admit they miss you, or that they don't want a relationship, or that they like having you around but don't want the responsibility that comes with being close to you. Watching is safe. Talking creates consequences. So they choose the version of you that asks nothing from them, the one behind a screen. And if you've ever been in this situation, you know how strangely powerful one little story view can feel. You post something, then pretend you don't care whether they see it. 10 minutes later, you check. Their name isn't there. You put your phone down, pick it back up, check again. And there they are. For a second, you get this tiny rush of relief. Maybe they still care. Maybe they miss you. Maybe the silence doesn't mean what you thought it meant. Then nothing happens. No message, no explanation, not even a reaction, just their name sitting in a list. The problem is that your mind doesn't like unfinished stories. When somebody gives you a clear answer, even a painful one, you eventually know what you're dealing with. But when their behavior keeps changing, warm one day, distant the next, you stay mentally involved. You start looking for clues. What did they mean by that song they posted? Why did they watch your story immediately? Why did they skip one and come back for the next? Were they jealous of the person sitting beside you in that photo? Maybe, maybe not. But the uncertainty keeps you thinking about them far more than a clear answer would. That push and pull can become addictive, not because you're weak and not because you enjoy being treated badly. It happens because unpredictable attention tends to hold our focus. When you don't know when the next little sign will come, you keep waiting for it. It's like your emotions are being fed one crumb at a time. Never enough to make you feel secure, but sometimes enough to stop you from leaving. Now, I want to be fair here. Not everyone who watches and doesn't reply is trying to manipulate you. Some people avoid messages because they're overwhelmed. Some genuinely don't know what to say. Some miss you but also know that talking again would reopen a relationship they can't handle. There are people who care and still shut down when emotions become uncomfortable. They may read your text, feel pressure to give the perfect answer, tell themselves they'll respond later, and then avoid it because too much time has passed. That happens. But even when the reason isn't cruel, the effect on you can still hurt. Someone can have a perfectly understandable reason for being emotionally unavailable and still be emotionally unavailable. You don't have to turn them into a villain to admit that the situation is damaging you. And yes, They may genuinely miss you. People sometimes check the stories of someone they lost because it gives them a quiet sense of closeness. They want to see your face. They wonder what you're doing. They want to know if you've moved on. But missing someone is a feeling. Maintaining a relationship is a choice. Those are not the same thing. A person can miss you and still have no intention of treating you better. They can feel jealous at the thought of you moving on while refusing to give you a reason to stay. They can want access to your life without wanting a real place in it. That's a hard thing to accept because we're often taught that strong feelings are what make relationships work. They aren't. Feelings can bring two people together, but consistency is what makes closeness feel safe. Without that, you're not building a relationship. You're trying to survive a pattern. And this is where the question needs to change. Instead of asking, "Why do they keep watching me?" ask yourself, "Why does seeing their name change my entire mood?" That's not meant to shame you. Just be honest. Are you hoping their attention proves that you mattered? Do you want them to regret losing you? Are you posting the happiest parts of your life because you actually want to share them? Or because you hope a particular person sees them? You know the kind of post I mean. The photo where you spent longer choosing the song than editing the picture. The quote that's for nobody, except you check one person's name 5 times to make sure they saw it. The night out that you barely enjoyed because half your attention was on your phone. At that point, you aren't really posting your life. You're sending messages in a language that allows both of you to avoid speaking. They watch. You notice. You post again. They watch again. And somehow a whole relationship starts existing through hints, views, songs, and silence. It feels intense, but nothing is actually moving. So what should you do? First, don't send another message just to calm the anxiety created by the first unanswered one. That usually gives you relief for about 30 seconds. Then you start worrying about 2 unanswered messages instead of 1. Give the situation enough space to show you what it really is. If this person normally communicates well and one message went unanswered, don't turn it into a crisis. People have jobs, families, bad days, and moments when they don't have the energy to talk. But if this is a pattern, if they regularly ignore direct communication while staying visible around you, stop treating every story view as evidence that the relationship is secretly alive. A view tells you they looked. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't promise change, and it definitely doesn't replace a conversation. If the relationship matters and you need clarity, say something simple, not a 5-page paragraph, not an angry speech, just the truth. You might say, "I've noticed that our communication has become inconsistent. I care about you, but being left in this in-between space doesn't feel good. If you want to talk, I'm open to that. If you don't, I need to know so I can stop guessing." Then leave it there. Don't send another message explaining the explanation. Don't post something dramatic 10 minutes later. Let their response or their continued silence give you information. If they care and they're capable of showing up, that message gives them room to do it. If they avoid it, change the subject or return with just enough affection to distract you from the issue. Pay attention. An apology without changed behavior may feel comforting, but it puts you right back in the same waiting room. You also have permission to protect yourself online. Mute them. Hide your story. Stop checking the list. Remove them if you need to. Not to punish them. Not to make them panic and come running back. Do it because you're tired of letting a tiny circle around your profile decide how you feel about yourself. Sometimes people say, if you really didn't care, you wouldn't need to remove them. That's nonsense. Boundaries are often necessary precisely because you do care. You're creating distance because your feelings are real, not because they aren't. And maybe one day their name won't affect you. Maybe you'll be able to see it and feel absolutely nothing. But you don't have to keep touching the bruise to prove it doesn't hurt. The truth is, you may never know exactly why they watched. Maybe they missed you. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they wanted to make sure you hadn't forgotten them. Maybe they were simply scrolling while waiting for their coffee. But your peace cannot depend on solving a mystery that only they can answer. What you can judge is the pattern. When you speak, do they listen? When something feels wrong, do they address it? When they hurt you, Do they try to repair it? Do you feel calm around them, or do you spend most of your time decoding them? That's where the real answer is. Because someone can watch every second of your life and still know nothing about what you need. They can be the first person to see your story and the last person willing to have an honest conversation. Their attention may be real. Their feelings may be real too, but neither one automatically makes them ready for a relationship. So if they keep watching while ignoring your texts, don't rush to call it love, and don't immediately call it manipulation. Call it what you can actually see. They are present enough to observe you, but not present enough to meet you. And until that changes, stop building hope out of views. You deserve more than being quietly monitored by someone who goes silent when you need clarity. You deserve a connection that exists after the story disappears.